Good morning. Barry Bryson again, joining you for another 5 good minutes, with the word. And thank you so much for joining me again this morning. We're in Luke 22 still, as we were yesterday. And yesterday I promised that we would listen to Peter deny Jesus, but we'll do that tomorrow. There's one other stop we have to make before we head off to the high priest's house with Peter and hear him deny Jesus 3 times. And it's there in the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus. It's such a tough passage to read in all three synoptic gospels. It's just the hour when everything begins to culminate, when it's the beginning of the climax of everything Jesus came to do, and the stress, the pressure of that moment is such that Jesus in the garden prays that God relieve him of the responsibilities of the moment. And when Jesus doesn't want to be by himself, but takes all the apostles to the Garden of Gethsemane and takes Peter, James, and John with him into the Garden of Gethsemane. And while he's there, he is found by Judas and by the temple guard and by others, and he is arrested and taken to the high priest for the beginning of his trials. And we're going to read Luke's account, but we're going to mention John's as well, because John, writing at the end of the first century, is the first person to name names. It says in Luke chapter 22 that while Jesus was still speaking, as to Peter, James, and John, behold, a multitude came, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was preceding them. And he approached Jesus to kiss him. And Jesus said to him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? And when those who were around him saw what was going to happen, they said, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? And a certain one of them struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, Stop, no more of this. And he touched the ear and healed him. And Jesus said to the chief priests and officers of the temple and the elders who had come out against him, Have you come out with swords and clubs as against a robber? While I was with you daily in the temple, I was there and you didn't lay hold on me. But this is the hour of darkness. But the hour, and the power of darkness are yours. Well, we're not told in the Synoptic Gospels who it is that raises the sword. We're only told in Luke's Gospel that the servant Malchus, that his ear was healed by Jesus. It's John at the end of the first century that gives us the names, and not just the name of the one carrying the sword, Peter, but the name of the man whose ear was severed, Malchus, which I think is important in itself. That John roots this in history and gives us the actual name, and to remember that this act of aggression against this man who was a slave, who was not there of his own free will. Peter said yesterday to Jesus that he was prepared to go to jail and to go to death with Jesus. I'm not sure that in the moment of decision that was the case. Not at this time, it isn't. But he's certainly prepared to kill for Jesus. Because I don't think he was aiming for Malchus's ear. And even if he was aiming for Malchus's ear, I don't think that a fisherman would have had the knife skills to have severed that ear. He was looking to split the man's head open. And because the man flinched, and because he was a fisherman and not a swordsman, he cut off his ear. Jesus made absolutely, positively clear that in the kingdom, we never use violence to achieve the will of God. That as disciples and exercising our role as disciples, violence has no place. And he made that clear to Peter that night. It's an altogether unsettling, disturbing, and crushing night for Peter. He's been told that he's going to deny Jesus. He feels in his heart that he needs to prove himself. He has failed in that he could not stay awake with Jesus in the garden. And then in the moment of truth, he's not prepared to die. He's prepared to kill. And that's never been God's plan. Well, it will get even lower for him tomorrow when he denies Jesus 3 times. Thank you for joining me for 5 good minutes, and we'll look forward to our conversation next time.